Today, it's all about lenses, how they work, how to choose them, how to mount them, how to use them. When you first get a large format lens, it looks like this. It's a basic lens. You have your rear element, comes apart. You have a retaining ring. The front element comes out, and then you have your shutter. These are the elements of a large format lens. When you get a lens, you're going to want to mount it in a lens board. One of the things about lens boards is you need the specific lens board for your specific camera. Each camera has generally their own specific lens boards, either a Linhof lens board or Toyo or Sinar, Deardorff. Whatever your camera make is, you need the specific lens board for that camera to fit your lens in. Each lens has its own specific size of lens board. Generally 3 sizes of lenses. There is a Copal 0, there's a Copal 1, and there's a Copal 3 shutters. And you're going to need the appropriate hole in each lens board to mount the lens. Now after you mount your lens, it's going to look like this. It's going to sit on the board, the retaining ring is going to hold it in place, and it's going to be ready for use and put on your camera. Now there are some basic parts to a lens that you need to know, and once you know them, then you're ready to go. The first thing is your preview lever. When you use your preview lever, you open the lens like that. That's gonna let you focus the image on the ground glass. And after you focus the image, you close the lever, and then you're ready to take a photograph. After that, you're gonna have the shutter cocking lever. Goes like that, that cocks the shutter, it gets it ready to fire. On your lens, you have a ring, and then you have the shutter speeds. It goes from 400 all the way down to 1 second. And then it has B for bulb, so then when you take a photograph and you hold that shutter open, it will stay open for as long as you hold it. And then it has a T setting for time. The first time you click it, it stays open. So for really long exposures, you can leave it open and then you don't have to hold your cable release. And then when you click your cable release again, it shuts it off. And that's what the T setting is for. Also on the lens, you can have a PC contact. So you can hook a strobe up to this lens. And then the beauty of these large format lenses is that the strobe will fire in sync to any shutter speed. If you use it at 1/400th of a second, your strobe will fire and it'll work perfectly. Also on your lens, you have the aperture ring. The aperture ring goes by third stops, and usually on modern lenses, they start at 5/6 and they go anywhere to f/45 or f/64. And the last element on your lens is a screw in for your cable release. When you screw that in, that's how you use a cable release. One of the first lenses you'll probably get with your large format camera is a 150mm lens. Now 150mm is the equivalent of a 50mm in 35mm. One of the easiest ways of figuring out an approximate correlation between the two is if you take a 50mm lens in 35mm or anything in a 35mm and you times it by 3, that will give you the approximate focal length for 4x5. So 50 times 3 is a 150 lens. And the same thing goes for an 8x10, only you times it by 6. So a 50mm times by 6 is a 300mm, which I have here. That's approximately a 50mm lens for an 8x10. Your lens projects a circle, an image circle, and different lenses project different sizes of image circles. Now you need a 165mm image circle to use for a 4x5 sheet of film. If the image circle is this big, that means at 165mm, you don't have very much room to do movements. As your 4x5 camera does movements up and down or side to side, that image circle shifts. As that image circle shifts, your film will come out of that image circle. The bigger the image circle, the better it is for large format photography. Now, some lenses can produce gigantic image circles like that. The problem with that is that lenses become a lot bigger, heavier, and more expensive to use. So you need to always know your image circle, and you can see it on the back of your camera. When you start going out of your image circle, you start getting vignetting. And same goes with an 8x10 sheet of film. You need approximately 330 millimeters of an image circle to cover an 8x10. And you can get lenses that can project way more, but again, the lenses get heavier, bigger, and more expensive. So an image circle is a very important factor for large format photographers. We need to know what the image circle of our particular lens is. Now, since almost nobody makes large format lenses anymore, except for Rodenstock, they still make a few, you're going to be buying your lenses used. There are many great lenses out there that still can be had. Nikon used to make all kinds of great lenses. Schneider made great lenses. Fuji makes great lenses. Any kind of modern lens that's going to be modernly coated is going to work well for you. There's a big debate out there about what are the best lenses. If you're just starting out, you don't have to worry about what's the very best lens and what's going to give you the very best quality. I guarantee you, you're almost not going to be able to tell a difference between a Fuji lens or a Rodenstock lens, a Schneider lens. It's really the discerning eye that's going to know the difference. But if you're just starting out and you want to get a decent lens, any kind of a modern lens is going to do you well. And in fact, some of the older lenses are sought after as well. This is my 1912 Gortz de Gore lens. It's a great lens, gives you a really interesting quality. Some of the older lenses will give you a look that the newer lenses can't do. The only difference is this isn't modernly coated, and it gives you a slightly different feel. But I love this lens. It comes in Alphax woolen sack shutter. One of the downsides is the shutter only goes up to a 30th of a second, but this is a great lens. So sometimes looking out for these old lenses can give you pictures that, kind of the new lenses aren't going to give you. One of the lenses you're probably going to get is 150 millimeter. That's a normal lens. Another lens that you can look at is 120 millimeter or somewhere around that range. That's a slightly wider lens. That's about a 35 millimeter in 35 millimeter terms. And then this is a 90 millimeter on my 4x5, and that's approximately a 28 millimeter lens. On the longer side, I have a 240 lens and then a 300 lens. And again, the 300 lens can either be used on my 4x5 or 8x10. The problem with using a 300 that's this big in a Copal 3, it's very heavy and you're going to need a lot of bellows draw. And some of the smaller cameras are going to have a problem with this weight and with the bellows draw because you'll need 300 millimeters of bellows to focus this on infinity. One of the other things you're going to have to consider as you use super wide angle lenses on these 4x5 cameras, you're going to need a bag bellows. This is a bellows that can compress and that you can use wide angle lenses. A regular bellows is not going to compress enough into the body so that you can use super wide angle lenses. So you're going to need something like this that's a bag bellows for your camera. Now, I always store my lenses, especially when I travel in my cases, one of two ways. Sometimes I have these little pouches. I got these little pouches in Japan. They're these wonderful little lens pouches that I like to use. Or else I can also use lens wraps as well. These are two ways that I always store my lenses and put them in so that they don't get knocked around and scratched up. I always have my lens caps on as well. And one of the things is when you are traveling or when you are storing your lenses, don't store them with the shutter cocked. Always have the shutter uncocked when you're storing your lenses. One of the other ways I store my lenses is when I travel, I have one of these lens cases. This is made by NASGear, if you can find them. These are great, ingenious cases. And you open them up, and then the lenses go in here, and they have separate compartments for each lens. This is a great way of storing your lenses and for carrying around to your assignments. I also want to thank you guys for watching. The response has been fantastic. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, hit a like, leave me a comment, let me know what you'd like to see. This has been a lot of fun. See you next time.